Today, I'm finally revealing my top 10 bourbons of the year for 2025. Not that you need another list, and better late than never. But I usually take a lot of time towards the end of the year, or even the beginning of the next year, like 2026, to do a bunch of blind tasting to see where they actually line up. I will also talk about my surprise whiskeys of the year and my American single malt of the year. I'll also reveal some other great bourbons that just missed the top 10 that were big surprises. It's gonna be fun. Come right back. It's the Mash and Drum. What's up, folks? I'm Jason C. from the Mash and Drum, and welcome back to the show. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and thanks for an amazing 2025 as we head into 2026. So let's dive right in. My criteria for this list is simple. First, I don't do samples. If I got a sample of a bourbon and I didn't get a full bottle to enjoy and see how it opens up over time, I don't include it. Secondly, no store or group picks. I mean, honestly, with all the store picks I buy, that probably needs to have its own list, and if I didn't have a YouTube channel, honestly, store picks would probably be the only thing I'm buying right now. Lastly, they all had to be 2025 releases. Now, as I mentioned, the results of this list came from multiple days of blind tastings, which was really fun to do. I did it live on Patreon with just my members, so they got to see how it actually shook out. All right, and here's the last thing, and even though I say this every single year, I know it's not going to matter, but this is not meant to be a value or easily findable list. Yes, there will be some bourbons you can find on this list, but this is about my favorite bourbons that I got to acquire and tasted in 2025. Now, everyone has their own personal list. This happens to be mine. I mean, you have your personal list, I have mine, so maybe instead of leaving comments about how you won't find any of these bottles, maybe leave your personal top 10 instead. Don't worry, I have a huge value bourbon video that I'm working on, so stay tuned for that. Okay, first let's talk about my surprise whiskeys of the year. All right, so first one, who knew a Jefferson's release would make me excited to see what comes out in 2026? Jefferson's Reserve Cask Strength was a limited edition Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, bottled at 130 proof and aged for about 8 years. I called this thing vanilla gasoline when I first tried it, and I think it evolves into vanilla gasoline, maybe, drizzled over apple pie a little bit. It's got a lot of barrel spice, a lot of oak, a lingering finish that really took over, and it really did catch me by surprise. Now, this was released nationwide in limited quantities in 2025. It's priced around $70, and they are still hanging around in some areas. So if you see it, grab it. It's a bit of a hidden gem, especially from Jefferson's. And Jefferson's, if you're watching, keep doing this. All right, next up, if I told you I had a 139.4 proof bourbon that was 12 years old that I loved, would it ever enter your mind that it was from Woodford Reserve? Probably not. So my other surprise whiskey of the year goes to the Woodford Reserve Chocolate Whisper Redux, a limited edition high proof Kentucky straight bourbon from Woodford. This was a 375 milliliter bottle that represents the highest proof bourbon the brand has ever bottled at 139.4. This was $100 like all their 375 milliliter releases at the distillery. Now, this expression builds on the original Chocolate Whisper concept for back in 2021 when they made that chocolate malted rye batch. So they basically took a bunch of whiskey, threw it into those used barrels, and then we came out with this. Now, there's no chocolate added, but there are rich chocolate, baking spice, and coffee bean notes, and it's kind of a serious dessert whiskey. And when I saw that it was this high a proof and we actually got an age statement from Woodford Reserve, I was completely blown away. I think this is a big reason why people got really interested in this, because Woodford Reserve actually gave us something that we could see and hear and read, and I think it got people really excited about this one. So big surprise and a serious dessert whiskey from Woodford Reserve. Okay, next up is my American Single Malt of the Year award in the category that I think is just getting better and better, mostly outside of Kentucky. Now, last year we had the Westward Milestone #3 that really made an impression. And while Milestone 4 was very good this year, I wasn't able to obtain a bottle. I only got a sample of that. And I still think I liked the third one a little bit better, as were releases from Del Box, Cedar Ridge, and other Westward releases that I got to try. There was a bunch of really good single malts. But the one that stood out more than any was this bottle right here. This is the Stranahan's Founders Release 12-year, a limited edition American single malt whiskey, celebrating Stranahan's 20 years of pioneering the style and the recent official recognition of American single malt as its own category. This was distilled from 100% malted barley and aged initially in new charred American oak and then finished in a mix of ex-bourbon and ex-blonde ale cask, which is a type of beer, before it was bottled at 120 proof. I mean, I have this in my glass right now, and this thing's crazy. On the nose, it's like, again, it's kind of a dessert quality type of whiskey. Chocolate coffee cake is the best way I can describe it. A lot of toffee, kind of pecan pie, heavy cinnamon, and almost like this amaretto liqueur type of vibe that it has. It's really delicious. This was pricey, about 215 bucks, and I took a chance on it, but what I ended up with, I was seriously surprised and super happy with it. I mean, overall, this is an absolute beast of an American single malt, and again, take notice everyone, American single malt is getting better and better every year, and I still think here in 2026, we're gonna see some more of the Kentucky distillers maybe leaning more heavily into it, so time will tell. Okay, before we get into our top 10 bourbons of the year, let's take a look at some bourbons that just missed making the top 10, but are worthy of a mention and kind of a surprise that they didn't make the top 10. All right, guys, so here are 4 whiskeys that just made the top 10 that I think are worth giving a mention just because of how they did in the blind tasting. Elijah Craig Barrel Proof B525. I think this is one of the best batches that they've come out with more recently. Just, you know, with all the talk and a lot of the negativity around Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, I think that this particular batch, almost getting to 12 years old, I think it was 11 years and 3, 4, 5 months, something like that. The fact that I think it got close to 12 years, I think it really did make a difference in this one. The sweetness was there, the complexity was there, and while it just, I mean, this literally got number 11. So it was that close to cracking the top 10, and these are still sitting around. Russell's 13. I know, shocker, it's a turkey. But this one in the blind tasting actually didn't really stand out like other Russell's 13s have in the past. I think it's because it was mostly 13 and 14 year whiskey. It wasn't those heavily oaky and cherry and deep rich flavors that we got from some of the early batches. However, this was still a really good solid batch. It was a little bit different. I think it was more sweet and sugary and kind of came off a little bit more of a traditional turkey rather than some of those deep rich flavors we find in the older aged turkeys. And unfortunately on the blind tasting, it just didn't stand out enough against some of the other ones. Knob Creek 21 year, while I still say that this is one of the better releases of 2025, I think the proof hurt it, and we talked about that during the review. I could see people not liking this one too much because the proof was so low. When you're talking about 100 proof whiskey, it's not going to stand out against some other big hitters. And I think because of that, while the age and the leather and some of those high age notes that you would, you know, expect from a 21 year bourbon, you know, stuck out, the proof and the finish is what really held it back in the blind tasting. And lastly, the New Riff High Note, also just missing the top 10. I think this one got maybe 13, 12, something like that. You saw the High Note 10-year rye make the top 10 for me in my rye of the year, but unfortunately the bourbon just got held back a little bit. New Riff has this little bit of an aftertaste that I usually pick up, especially in their bourbons. Don't really get it in their ryes, but I was able to kind of pick it up in this one a little bit as well. But overall, it really showed how good New Riff is getting the more the years go by. 10 years, I mean, who knows at 12 year what this could taste like. They're starting to get these really rich baking spice and cherry notes that I really dig. So yeah, these 4 bottles, again, these were the kind of the biggest surprises, but just missing the top 10. So let's go to the top 10. Number 10. Did you guys see the cool bottle slides? Yeah, that's why it took so long to make this video and get it edited. You have no idea how many times I almost threw a bottle off the table. Anyway, number 10 is the Star Hill Farm Wheat Whiskey from Maker's Mark. This release marked the brand's first new mash bill and first wheat whiskey in over 70 years. Now, rather than bourbon, it's made from wheat front and center, dropping corn entirely and spotlighting soft red winter wheat sourced by the distillery's own Star Hill Farm estate and nearby farm fields. Now, the 2025 release blends 2 wheat-forward mash bills, a 70% wheat, a 30% malted barley, and another one that's 100% malted wheat, resulting in a profile that seemed to change flavors every single time I went back to it. Now, this was aged 7 to 8 years, unfiltered, cask strength, 114.7 proof. It started off very wheat-forward for me, which I wasn't that crazy about. But then it opened up and it brought caramel and gingerbread, toffee, and then all of a sudden it turned to strawberries and cream, chocolate, and I mean, it's just a weird and kind of wonderful whiskey. Honestly, this was on the fringe, and the second time it went through the blind, it changed again, and it did amazingly well. That's when I started getting all the strawberry notes and these bright fruit notes. And for about $100, this was a great release and one that's coming back in 2026. Number 9, a bourbon that I thought would possibly win it all when I first tried it. This is the Bomberger's PFG Precision Fine Grain Kentucky Straight Bourbon, released by Michter's Distillery, released in 2025 as part of its Legacy series. Now this starts in regular New American oak, but then it's finished in custom toasted and charred French fine grain oak barrels made from wood sourced from prestigious French forests that I'm not going to even try to pronounce. Now this was bottled at 100.2 proof, which is why I think it fell back in the blind. Michter's typically, you see lower proof points anyway, but this is a French oak lover's dream. I love French oak and dark caramel, baking spices, fruit, chocolate, and the texture is what really stood out to me on this one. Not only do you have to love French oak for this, but you just have to love oak tannins as well. It's very oak tannin forward, and some people, it could get a little bit too much. Now, I do not mind it being a lower proof because of that viscosity. Now, the suggested retail price here was about $140. It did shoot up in price once reviews started going out, but I think the mouthfeel, again, is what made it stand out. And I do think the 100.2 proof point is what made it fall flat in the blind, because the finish just kind of fell off of a cliff. Number 8, and probably the hardest bottle to slide, the Four Roses 2025 limited edition small batch bourbon, the 18th annual limited edition from Four Roses, showcasing a blend of OBSV, OESV, OBSK, and OESV recipes. Now, it was bottled at 109 proof, and I told you the components. 3 of those were 13 years old, and 1 of them was 19 years. What's crazy is that I was not impressed with this bourbon at all in the beginning when I first cracked it open, and it really did surprise me in the blind tasting. I think as this opened up, it got fruit forward, tons of vanilla, tons of caramel, black tea leaves, and that mellow kind of oak profile that Four Roses is kind of known for. I honestly couldn't believe that this made the top 10, and this had a suggested retail price of about $250. And the last time I was at the distillery, which was in the beginning of December, you could actually go up to the counter in the back of the tasting room and ask for this bottle. They still had it. It was still hanging around. Crazy. Number 7, Barrel King 12 Summers. Nothing makes me more proud than this release, making it into the top 10. The Barrel King 12 Summers, blended by world's top whiskey taster and founder of the ADHD Whiskey channel, Mr. Matt Porter. Now, it features 12-year-old 36% rye MGP bourbon barrels, blended and then bottled at about 110.4 proof. Now, my patrons actually suggested I put this into the blind tasting, and I mean, the fact that it got number 7 was really, really cool to me. It really highlights soft leather and tobacco on the nose. It balanced it with vanilla, dark berry, which also carried through to the palate. The only thing that I wish it did have a little bit more of was a little bit longer of a finish, but it's a little bit more of a delicate whiskey. If you drink this on its own, it really has a lot of different flavors, a lot of different types of intricacies to unpack, and I think that's what really won out for me. Now, this bottle ended up selling out, and as someone who's gotten to know Matt more this past year, and seeing it do so well in the blind tasting at the end of the year, it really made an impression, and I'm really eager to see what Matt comes up with in 2026. Taking the 6th spot goes to the A. Smith Bowman Cask Strength Bourbon Batch Number 4, the 4th annual cask strength bottling from A. Smith Bowman Distillery, located in Fredericksburg, Virginia. This was aged a minimum of 10 years, hand-selected by distiller David Bach, and bottled uncut and non-chill filtered at 139.7 proof. It's a beast. Interestingly enough, this bottle never really makes my end of the year list because I was never able to acquire one. And I remember, you know, when you do these lists in the past, there's always comments, did you try the A. Smith Bowman? That one could have made your top 10. Well, this year it did. This year I got lucky, or I should say last year I got lucky and was unaware these started making it outside the distillery and into other markets. So one Saturday morning here in Ohio, I was completely surprised that this was available for the retail price of $100. Couldn't believe it. As far as the flavors go, it's grapey, it's plummy, it's got a little bit of chocolate, tons of cinnamon spice on the palate. It did have a bit too much of an ethanol punch, which I think held it back into not making into the top 5, but a couple drops of water really does open this whiskey up and it brings out that fruit note even more. Hopefully I get lucky in 2026 this year to see if I could find batch number 5, but we'll see how it goes. But overall, this is a fantastic bourbon, really sweet, really inviting, very powerful. It's a big whiskey, good enough to make the 6th spot in 2025. All right, we are in the top 5 now, and number 5 goes to the Jack Daniel's 14-year-old Tennessee whiskey, part of its annual age series. This bottle marks the oldest age statement whiskey the brand has offered in over a century, joining the 10 and 12-year releases celebrating the distillery's heritage. This has the classic Jack Daniel's mash bill, 80 corn, 12 malted barley, 8% rye, was bottled at 126.3 proof, and in true Jack Daniel's fashion, this was priced pretty competitively at $150 if you were able to find it for $150. I think we've been pretty spoiled with the Jack Daniel's Coy Hill releases, which are high proof flavor bombs that a lot of whiskey lovers chase. But this whiskey really showcases a different side of Jack Daniel's, showing deep, rich oak influence with layers of cinnamon, a little bit of butterscotch too, and a lot of leather. This is like sweet pipe tobacco dipped in chocolate and all those flavors together combined to create something that I really loved. Now, this whiskey I knew was probably going to be a top 10 contender when I first tasted it, and with plans for an 18-year and a 21-year expression in the future, Jack Daniel's is just going in pushing the limits of high maturation in Lynchburg, Tennessee. I'm telling you, Jack Daniel's overall, they had themselves a year. All right, I know you guys are waiting for turkey to be on the list, and here it is. The Russell's Reserve Single Rickhouse Camp Nelson E. The Single Rickhouse series highlights the terroir-driven character of barrels drawn exclusively from Wild Turkey Rickhouses, and specifically for this one, the 5th floor in the historic Camp Nelson E. Rickhouse. Now, this was bottled at an impressive 128 proof, which is the highest proof Wild Turkey product ever released under the Russell's Reserve label, and it's supposedly at least 10 years old. The thing for me on this one, and I did pour a little here, is how fruit forward it is. Like, you had your signature vanilla, caramel, your citrus flavors that you normally get from Wild Turkey, but this has tons of dried fruit, blackberry, black cherry. The amount of dark fruit this had, I think, was something just a little bit different that I really enjoyed. And even on the finish, like this sweet oak, molasses, dark fruit combination, it just really made an impression in the blind tasting. Now, I will agree, the price on this at $300 is pretty overboard, but you guys know I'm a turkey head and I love this release. E and F are my favorites of the Single Rickhouse releases, but the dark fruit here was really the kicker. It's really what made it stand out. We'll see what 2026 brings in this series, but honestly, the proof and the flavors of this one might be kind of hard to top. I can't believe this even beat my beloved turkey, but it did. The Reveries Raven Batch, the inaugural release, so the first one, the first Raven blend from the Reveries, an independent bottler helmed by whiskey curator Jay West, better known as Take. Now, this is bottled at barrel strength, 128.8 proof, non-chill filtered. It was a very limited release, but it highlights a killer blend of older stocks to create just an incredible bourbon for about $150. Now, what's cool is on the back of the bottle, Jay tells you exactly what's in here, the percentages that were used. It was 48% of a 10-year Heaven Hill, 27% of a 9-year, 21% rye MGP, 14% of another 9-year 21% rye MGP, and 11% of a 14-year-old Wild Turkey. This is a big whiskey. Punchy aromatics of caramel apple, cola, blackberry, candy ginger. I mean, the amount of flavors that you can pick up in this was all over the place. It's thick, it's rich. I got like this really nice caramel praline note, which I think was a nice combination of the Heaven Hill, maybe the MGP. Little hint of root beer. I mean, this thing was all over the place. Now, Jay did release 3 other subsequent Ravens after this one, batches 2, 3, and 4. And while I didn't get my hands on those bottles, this first blend was just so amazing. And as I stated in my new Bourbon Brands video for 2026, keep an eye out for the Reveries. I think what Jay's doing is really incredible, and I can't wait to see what he brings to the table in 2026 and to my whiskey shelf, which is getting pretty full. Number 2 is kind of sad, since for now, this is the last release of Wild Turkey Master's Keep until, anything maybe changes going forward. But Wild Turkey Master's Keep Beacon is the 10th and final installment in the Master's Keep Limited Edition series, released in 2025. Now, the blend was pretty cool. It featured components of a 16-year-old bourbon selected by Eddie Russell and a 10-year-old bourbon, which was distilled by Bruce Russell back in 2015, which was among the earliest barrels he made when he started at Wild Turkey. He told the whole story that they wanted him to learn distilling from the ground up, so anything that he could have done by hand without automation, he was able to do, and that's what went into this bottle. Now, this was 118 proof, and Beacon is the highest proof release in the Master's Keep series that they ever released, and this also retailed for about $300. I mean, what can I say? This bourbon has everything you love about Wild Turkey with a little bit more extra on top of it. Dark fruit, cherry, honey, vanilla, cola, caramelized sugar, citrus. This beautiful finish that has the age, it shows the age with a little bit of oak, a little bit of leather, and it just has that little bit of turkey funk that keeps things interesting. Now, this bourbon was only beat out by number 1, which we will get to, but Beacon to me just amplified my love for Wild Turkey. Now, while a lot of you probably still love Russell's 15 or maybe even the C&E Single Rickhouse over this one, and that can be totally understandable, Beacon to me really does bring this symbolic bridge between Wild Turkey's heritage flavors from Eddie and its next chapter with Bruce. The flavors here are old but modern at the same time. I think it was just a really beautiful blend. I think this happens to have a little bit more layers that I liked versus some of the other turkey releases that I had this year. So, and like I said this would have been number 1 if I wasn't lucky enough to get the actual number 1 bourbon of the year. Now, my number 1 is as limited as it gets, but like I said, this isn't about value or findable shelfers. My bourbon of the year is the William Heaven Hill 19-year bourbon 2025 release, an ultra limited bourbon released by Heaven Hill. Now, the 19-year age statement on this makes it the oldest release in the William Heaven Hill series to date, showcasing rare, long-aged stock distilled from the brand's classic mash bill, 78 corn, 10 rye, 12 barley. It was drawn apparently from about 30 barrels aged on multiple rickhouse floors at the Heaven Hill Bardstown and Glencoe facilities, and it was bottled at 138.2 proof. This thing is so stupid good, nothing really else came too close to this. The blind tasting, as soon as this hit my nose, my palate, it was over. I got this rich chocolate praline on the nose that evolved into dark spiced fruit. It's got this rich oak that never really felt like it ever got over oaked. Amazingly, and I think that's what really made it stand out. Of course, that big proof point brought a just ridiculously long finish. Again, never really feeling overproofed either, as well as not ever really feeling over oaked. I honestly think that, like that barrel goo when you walk into a rick house and you see like that, that barrel goo kind of oozing out of the barrel, and you would think in your head it would kind of taste like this. But that's not true. That goo actually tastes terrible. Don't drink it. But it should taste like this. Now, I hate how limited this bottle was, but I think at $300 retail, this was a steal. Again, got really lucky to get this bottle. We saw a couple of NDPs source some of these high-aged Heaven Hill barrels, and they were selling them for $500, $1,000, almost $2,000, with secondary market values even going above that. Now, a bourbon like this doesn't really come along very often. We have this combination of age, proof, flavor that just hits just so completely perfect in every aspect of the whiskey, and it really did earn a Bourbon of the Year designation considering the competition it went against this year. All right, guys, well, there it is, my top 10 bourbons of 2025. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the subscribe button below. Please hit the like button. If you haven't yet, follow me on Instagram. Let me know down in the comments your personal top 10s of the year. You know, if you had to not include single barrels that you got this year, I know a lot of you guys buy a lot of cool single barrels, but if you were just including releases that you got in 2025, what would your top 10 look like? I want to see if there's any patterns there, any consistencies, inconsistencies that we see in the comments. And as I always say, it's not about the whiskey, it's the people you share it with. Cheers to 2025, and 2026 is just getting underway. Cheers, and I'll see you next time on the Master and Drum. So good.